Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Di, and today I'm sharing with you my end of month reflections for the month of June 2022. So in May, I had decided that I was going to try this end of month reflections to kind of wrap up my monthly reading, just because I started reviewing all of the books that I was reading throughout the month in my Desis 19 Diaries vlogs, and I didn't want to have to rehash those reviews again at the end of the month. And so basically what this video is just a kind of stats video, and then I will give you my best rated and worst rated books of the month, or my best and worst books of the month, not necessarily best rated. I guess best rated would probably coincide, but maybe not worst. But we'll see, because there could be several worst rated, but I'm just going to pick what I feel like was my worst reads of the month. So yeah, I participated in 3 readathons in the month of June. The Whatever-a-thon readathon, hosted by Book Browsing Blog. The Manga Pride readathon, which was hosted by Bizarre Individual, Dynamic Dylan, and Rachel Catherine. And the Read Your E-Reader readathon, which was hosted by my friend Bookworm's Buddy. And so I didn't do too great with the Read Your E-Reader. Not as good as I wanted to anyway, but I did get some books read on my e-reader, which is great. I want to try to continue that into the month of July, because I have really been enjoying reading on my e-reader. Plus, I'm having a little bit of issue with pain in my hands, and the e-reader is just a little bit easier for me to hold than the regular books, especially with some of the sizes of books that I have been reading. So that's great. But anyway, let's get into some stats. So, like I said, I participated in Whatever-thon, and we were taking stats for that. I ended up reading 17 things, which is up from last month. I think last month I read 15 things. So I think that's pretty good. As far as the number of pages I read 4,262 pages in the month of June. That is up over 1,000 pages. So again, I did really well as far as reading the activity goes. Of the things that I had read, 12 of them were volumes of manga and 5 of them were novels. So in May, I had read 8 volumes of manga, so my number of volumes of manga increased in the month of June. And it's actually even a little bit more, because 2 of the things I read were omnibuses, so they both included 2 volumes. So technically I read 14 volumes, but I just counted the omnibus as 1 volume for these stats. So I read 4 additional volumes of manga. I think that's greatly impacted by the fact that I was buddy reading a lot of the Pride manga with Bizarre Individual. That really helped bump up my reading during the month, and I really enjoyed buddy reading all of the titles with him. So that's great. My number of novels read during the month did not change, so I do think that's good, considering the fact that I still don't feel like my reading is as enjoyable as it had been in the past. I still feel like I'm in a slump, and you wouldn't think that with the number of things that I've been getting read, but I am not enjoying them as much as I would like. So let's get into my ratings. So of the things I had read, 1 of them was 5 stars, and that was actually a reread. And so that one actually did not have its rating change either. It was 5 stars when I read it the first time, and it remained 5 stars when I read it the second time. So moving on, 5 of the things I read I would consider 4-star reads, meaning that I would reread them 9 of the things I read were 3.5-star reads, so that basically means I liked them, I would recommend them, but I would not reread them. And then 2 of those things were 2.5-star reads, which basically means that I didn't really enjoy them and I wouldn't recommend. So, yeah. My ratings used to be more 4 and 5-star ratings. Now, a majority of my ratings is 3.5 or lower. I think 2.5 is really low for me. And I think when I had actually rated the 2 things that I ended up rating 2.5, I said they were more like 2.5 to 3. On reflection, on reading those things, I definitely thought they were more 2.5 stars. Therefore, that's what they got. So, yeah. I'm reading. A majority of the things that I'm reading is not really like where I want it to be. It's not really enjoyable. It's not things that I would reread. They're not things I would pick up a copy for myself and add to my personal library. And that's not where I want my reading to be. I want it to be more in the 4 and 5, 4.5 and 5-star ratings, and that's just not where I am. So something's still not right with my reading, and I don't know what it is. It's been a struggle. I have not felt like this in a really long time about my reading, and I find that this slump that I think I'm in is much harder to shake than previous ones. Even though I read a lot during the month of June, there were still days where I was just like, no, I don't want to read anything today. And I'm the type of person that up until when I fell into my slump, I would read every day regardless. And now it's just like, I don't feel like reading, I'll do something else. I'm the type of person that will normally read right before bed, but I am finding that I am staying up later to like watch a YouTube video or do something else that's not reading. So by the time I am like ready for bed, I am so tired that I just go to bed and go to sleep. I don't spend the time that I normally would spend to read 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters before I go to sleep. So yeah, it's disappointing. But I don't know what else to do. I mean, I keep trying different types of things to read. I have tried to reread things, and I am finding that things that I'm rereading, I am enjoying, but I enjoyed them when I read them the first time. So that's not a change. And I don't know what will help me pick up things that are new to me that I would enjoy, because I'm pretty much reading things that I thought I would enjoy, and it turns out that I didn't enjoy them as much as I thought. So I don't know how to fix the situation I'm in. If you've got any pointers, let me know down in the comments below. Everything that I read during the month, I have wrapped up in my Desus 19 diaries, and since I've started doing these end of month reflections, I have started to list the title of things that I wrap up in the videos in the description box of each of the diary entries. So if you're interested in a particular title that you'd like to hear what my thoughts were on it, you can check out the description box of the diary entries and see which diary entry has the review for those titles. I always wrap up my reading first at the beginning of the diary entry, and so you don't have to watch the whole thing if you don't want to and just want to hear my thoughts about the books and manga that I read. Also, a couple of the things that I read are for my Monochrome Manga Club, so that has its own dedicated video every month, so those titles are always shown in the title of the video as well. So, yeah, let me just touch briefly on my best read of the month and my worst reads of the month. We'll start off with the bad because I'd like to end this video on a high note. So I had two 2.5 star reads. I can't decide between the two of them which was worse. And I did a pretty heavy rant on both of these titles in Adissa's 19 Diary. So I'm going to try to summarize as much as possible and just give you a very, very summarized review of both books. So one of the lowest reads of my month was Witch by Ian Robb Wright. I borrowed this from Kindle Unlimited. I also borrowed an audiobook copy from Hoopla. This was a story that is in the Cursed Manuscripts series, but this book has nothing to do with Cursed Manuscripts. If you look on Goodreads, the summary for this book has nothing to do with what's written there. I don't even know why that summary is the way it is, but that summary does allude to the fact that this series has something to do with these Cursed Manuscripts, and I did not find a connection to that, or even a mention to that at all in this book. Basically, this book is about our two main characters, a boy and a girl who have been friends since childhood. They're now in their teens, and they are bullied heavily by a group of students at their school. One day, they come across these students in a park, and in running away from these kids, they stumble across an abandoned farmhouse. And inside the farmhouse, there is a woman who is chained up. And she's not chained in the traditional way that you normally see people chained, where they have a cuff and then the chain comes from the cuff. Her chains go straight directly through her bones. So through both of her wrists and her ankles. And she is chained in the middle of the room of this storehouse. Also around the room, there are all of these symbols painted on the floor and the walls. And they do not know what's up. But obviously they cannot help this woman themselves because of the way that she is chained. So they run back into town and they find a police officer and report what they found. When the police go to investigate the location, the woman is not there. There are no strange symbols anywhere. And the police think that these two kids are committing an offense, basically. They've lied. And so these two kids go back to the farmhouse to try to clear their name, and things happen from there. Obviously, there is a connection to the title of this book, Witch, to the woman that was chained up. I think that's not spoilery. You can pretty much surmise that. But it has, that whole summary I gave you is what this book follows, and not anything close to what is the summary of this book. So I did not enjoy this one because I was so hoping for that summary regarding the Cursed Manuscripts to pop up, because that is what attracted me to this book in the first place. And this story that was told in the book just wasn't it for me. I did not enjoy it. It was kind of predictable. The author decided to throw in a random sex scene at the end of the book for no good reason other than to expand the number of pages. I mean, it had really nothing to do with what happened in the story. And yeah, I don't enjoy sex scenes written by men. I have found that out over the last few months. And this just wasn't enjoyable for me. There's child abuse. There's scenes where the parent is physically abusing his daughter, not sexually, but he hits her. There's bullying, obviously, and it's pretty bad from the get-go of the book. I just didn't enjoy this one. It wasn't enjoyable. It definitely wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And there is a sequel out. It's about zombies, and also, based on what I've read of the reviews of people who have read that, has nothing to do with Cursed Manuscripts either, so I won't be continuing with this series. So that's the first book that got a 2.5. The second one was a manga. It was one that I read with Bizarre Individual for Manga Pride Readathon, and that is I'm Looking for Serious Love. This one is by Shoko Rakuta, published by Tokyo Pop, rated mature. This does have sexual content in it. Tokyo Pop does give the reasons why they give their age ratings. So besides the sexual content that is involved, it says nudity, explicit sexual content, dubious consent, stalking, and voyeurism. I don't think there was any voyeurism. I don't recall there being any voyeurism. But maybe I misinterpreted something. But yeah, this story is about our main character here. He has come to another city for college. He's actually come from the country, so he's a country guy coming to the city for college, and he is set up in an apartment complex. And before he leaves his home, his grandmother tells him, you know, some etiquette in when you move to a new place. And since he's going to be living on his own for the first time, you know, he gets this kind of etiquette lesson from his grandma. So the grandma basically says when you move into a new place, you need to go and introduce yourself to your neighbors and here give them this like, it's like a snack packet. It's like full of like different types of snacks from where he's from. And so he does that. Well, his neighbor turns out to be this rambunctious city guy, and our main character has all the stereotypes in his head about his new neighbor. And he's like, oh, that's just great. Well, it turns out that they end up getting off on the wrong foot, and they start to have these run-ins with each other and eventually end up in a relationship together. I don't think that's spoilery. I mean, this is a contemporary romance between two men. I did not enjoy this. This, for the size, there weren't enough pages to tell a good story. And for me, this title does not make sense at all to what happened in this book. In fact, the summary makes it seem like one of them is looking for serious love, and that is not the impression I got out of this title. In fact, I feel like our main character here basically let people take advantage of him. As far as dubious consent goes, I feel like there was no consent. As far as the sex scenes goes, this particular volume had the most sex scenes of anything I read this month. There were 4 sex scenes, I think, if not more, in this title, or this volume. And there's not very many pages. So those pages could have been used to give more of a solid story. I couldn't believe that these two characters would have a long-lasting relationship. I mean, when you have a title like I'm Looking for Serious Love, you're expecting a long-lasting relationship. I don't think that's what these two characters are going to have. This relationship is basically just sex. And I don't enjoy that either. So, very disappointed with that one. Obviously, I have a physical copy, so that is a disappointing purchase for me. So, those were my 2 lowest rated reads of the month. And the worst. I couldn't decide between the 2 of them which one I disliked more. But, yeah. So, my highest rated read was my reread, and that is The Last Olympian by Rick Riordan. This is the 5th book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series. I ended up listening to a majority of this on audio. When I had read it the first time, I did not listen to the audiobook. I didn't even get into audiobooks around the time that I was reading this. So this is basically the conclusion of this series. I really enjoyed it. There were a lot of things that I remembered, but there was still a lot of stuff that I didn't. I really enjoyed listening to the audiobooks of this series. I listened to them throughout my reread of this series. The audiobook narrator did an excellent job, and I was very happy to experience this story in a different way. And yeah, I ended up reading the series as a reread with my family, and so it's been a very interesting ride. All of this was read so that I could get to the Heroes of Olympus series, which I was really interested in reading, but I felt like I needed to reread this in order to do that. And so I am now into the Heroes of Olympus series. So I am currently reading that. But yes, I really, really enjoyed this. I'm definitely looking forward to the new TV show because there are a lot of things within this story that I'm looking forward to seeing on screen. I do enjoy the movies that were made of this series. I know a lot of people hate it, and it gets a lot of hate, but I enjoy it. I find them entertaining. And yeah, they're very different from the books, but a lot of movies that are adapted from books are. There are some that I really hate. This one isn't one of those. So yeah, we did do a reread of, or a rewatch of the movies recently as well. And I still enjoyed them. So this one got 5 stars when I read it the first time. It gets 5 stars now. I did not change the rating. And I think it'll be a series that I will reread again in the future. And so it was nice to revisit that story and those characters, and I'm looking forward to what the Heroes of Olympus hold for me. So that pretty much is it for my end of month reflections. All in all, even though I don't feel great about the things that I read, I do think that I did a good job. My number of pages are up, and I was still able to get through a lot of stuff during the month, even though I didn't enjoy a majority of the things I read as much as I was hoping to. So, yeah, let me know down in the comments below what your best and worst reads of the month of June were, if you participated in any readathons, and how you did with those. Also, let me know if there are any particular stats you'd like me to include in these videos. I know it's pretty bare bone, but just kind of trying to get out information I think is interesting. I don't necessarily need to know like what genres everybody's read from. For me, this is more what I am interested in hearing from others who do stats videos. But if you're interested in other stats for me to include, definitely let me know down in the comments below. Like I had mentioned earlier, I have reviewed all of the things I read, books and manga, in my DCES 19 diaries. So if you're interested in hearing me talk about those, you can check out my DCES 19 diaries entries for the month and open up that description box, and it'll tell you what titles I have reviewed in those videos so that you can find the reviews easier. And I do review the books that I've read at the beginning of every video, so you don't have to search for those either. You can also check out my reviews on Goodreads or on my blog, but I don't have reviews for everything there, so just know that. If nothing else, and you'd just like to let me know that you were here, if you could leave me a sword emoji down in the comments below, that would be greatly appreciated and would really help me out. And that will do it for me today. So I hope you're all doing great. I hope you're all safe and healthy. And until next time, take care and smile always. Bye.